Share my screen.
Go.
It's frozen.
Okie dokie. All right, so first things first, assuming that everybody has MarkSystems installed on their laptop or computer, usually like to keep it on.
But say Brady will as soon as he has a computer.
Okay. Just so you guys know, I believe, Sam, correct me if I'm wrong, in your resource folder should be the download link for MarkSystems. There's a download for a
Yes.
PC and a download for a Mac, just so you guys know. There's instructions in there. You'll be able to click the link, download, and just kind of run through it. First time you open this up, like double click to open it up and launch it, it's going to take a minute. Like I doubted whether MarkSystems even worked on my computer. The first time I launched it, it took that long, but it kind of, it's a lot of data, a lot of information that it has to pull up. So if you're double clicking and opening it, just give it a minute to load. And then once it does, this is a screen that should pop up. You all have usernames and passwords, and usually first initial, last name, and by default, usually capital P, password, one exclamation mark. Will get you in, and then of course you guys can change your password after that. Let's see if we can load our module here. All right, so this is the first thing that's going to pop up, and I'm going to go at this like you guys haven't had any training at all, so you guys can go back to it and refer to it in case you missed something, if you want to go back and watch the video. And also as a side note, I'm going to end up building out kind of like a step-by-step, I'll show you in the slideshow, as well as from what the matrix used to be, like how to do everything step-by-step, so you can always like look it up as a reference point, like an encyclopedia, because I don't ever want you guys to get stuck, you know, while you're doing a price out, especially if the customer is sitting in front of you or you're about to do a purchase agreement. I don't want you to get stuck on a MarkSystems thing when you could go somewhere that has the reference material for you. So just know that that's coming in the future. It'll be on the help menu of the slideshow, so you can click on there and go. It'll be a big old long document with snippets of IHMS and like where to click things and how to put things in. But if you guys haven't done much already, the biggest thing about MarkSystems is you just got to get in there and just start plugging things in. It's not complicated, but it does need to be put in there a specific way. For you guys, this may not be up here the first time, but if you go into sales and then go to Sales Office Design Center, you will be in here 99% of the time. There's really nothing else for really a salesperson to be using than the Sales Office / Design Center. So the first time you'll go in under the Sales tab, hit Sales Office Design Center to click it and open it. And then after that, it'll show up over here on the left as a quick menu button for you to click on. And then from there, you can just click that bad boy and it is going to load. First things first, it wants to know where to pull the data from. Like, where am I pulling this information from? So if you hit the magnifying glass right here, you'll pull up a prompt box here. Most everything that you're going to do in this instance is going to be in 001 as the company. And then under development, you can click the magnifying glass and it'll pull up all the developments that you're wanting to pull the information from. So like if you're wanting to do a price out in Pleasant Hill, you could double click and hit Pleasant Hill, or you could have just typed in PL there. That's going to be your development code, and hit OK. And if you were just in this case record, say you were doing like a price out yesterday or earlier, it's assuming that you probably want to go back into Pleasant Hill, and it usually will open up the last case record you were in. Not always, but usually. So just so you guys know, if not, it'll open up some random case record. And this is the guy that comes up right here. And this is the module that you'll be working out of. To start with, at the very upper left-hand corner, you can, if they're an existing customer, you can hit search, this little dialog box will pop up, and you can go down the list here and find the customer that you may have already entered into the database. So say again, you were doing a price out yesterday and you wanted to pull it up and make an adjustment on there. This is where you would be able to do that. If you did not, and this is a brand new customer, you'll hit new, and it's going to ask you, are you sure you want to create a new one? And we're going to say, yep, that's what I meant to do when I hit new. And we'll just do one for myself here. And just so you guys know, for a price out, all I would really do is enter a name. I wouldn't get into adding a street address, city, state, zip, their email, and their cell phone information until you're probably ready to go to purchase agreement. It's just additional information you don't necessarily have to put in there. Some will use this as their CRM. You guys have Mistletoe for your CRM. So it's really not necessary unless you're doing a contract. Now, in the case of a contract, these are your merge fields, right? So they do need to be entered so they populate on the purchase agreement correctly. So just remember, if you're doing a purchase agreement, you got to put some meat on the bones right here. But if you're just doing a price out, I wouldn't sweat it. Just create the name. I'll show you in a moment how to add maybe like the spouse or the partner on there, so that way that it populates on the price out for them. But just to be clear, this street address and everything here, that's not for the house you're pricing out. It is for their current residence. I only say that because I've trained on this for years, and there are just people that are confused, like, am I supposed to enter in the house that they're purchasing here, or the spec, or whatever? That's their information, their personal information. You don't really mess with anything on first visit and last visit stuff, so don't sweat that. And really, I would almost skip your home and work fields. I think most people are usually just going to use their cell phone. And as a side note, and this is going to sound really weird, but that's also why I'm mentioning it here, just so you know in the future, if it's not populating under purchase agreement, these two cell phone fields, this first one will be the person on the contract, the first person. This second field is the one that'll populate for the second person on the contract. And the reason why that sounds weird is if we were to come in under this tab called names and hit add, and say I was to add my wife here, I know there's a cell phone field right here, but that one does not populate on the purchase agreement for some reason. It's this one that does. So it doesn't hurt to have it there. Just know if you want it to populate on the contract, you're going to end up having to put it here. So this is just me working all the way down. So if we were to add, my wife to this price out, so our name generated on the addendum, so when we're done and we're sending them home with the price out with the line item on there, and both of our names are there, after you hit their name in there, just hit OK, and it'll be populated and added here. So one thing I want to mention is sometimes you find out, maybe at first you thought I was going to be the one that was going to be the primary person on the purchase agreement. You find out after they go through pre-qualification with the lender, you find out that maybe Marjorie is the better one to be put the name under the loan. So you might end up having to come in here and delete. By selecting her, you could delete her here and then change it to Marjorie here and then add my name, if that makes sense. So your primary person on the purchase agreement needs to be first, and then the secondary can be added here. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Now down here under salesperson 1, you can hit the magnifying glass, and you can select yourself as the sales manager for the price out. Just be mindful, I do believe, unless something has changed with the way that the admin structure is, in order to change this usually requires a password. And it's usually going to just be John that does that, or one of us. So just be mindful that if you accidentally select the wrong name, or whatever instance that contract needs to be written under another salesperson's name, that usually doesn't get changed without an admin person involved, which makes sense, right? You don't want people changing the salesperson on the contract to, siphon commissions. So Anyway, so in this case, I'm not going to worry about it because I don't think it will be required right now. So that's really just the initial beginning of putting somebody in. So I think everyone kind of understands that, but I wanted to recap it because I'm sure you guys have slept since the initial training. Um, I'm just going to let you guys know the traffic tab, not one we use. The name tab is only when you're adding somebody else to a purchase agreement. You guys really don't handle anything with the contacts tab. You're pretty much going to camp out in selections and agreements. Selections is where you're building out the house on paper. This is where you're selecting all your colors, you're selecting all of your options. And you can see if I move this out of the way, when I'm on the selections tab, this little price summary guy pops up too. So you can see if you had selected the floor plan and a lot, you'll see everything kind of at a glance where you are at in your pricing with them. What was your base? How many options did you put in? If there's a lot premium, you'll see the lot premium, and you'll constantly know where you're at during your price out, because this might be important if someone's restrained by a budget. You're going to find out, I don't want to go over a certain amount. This will give you that glimpse of that total. The agreements tab, you're only going to be in here to do a purchase agreement or a home site reservation. Have you guys gone in and populated a home site reservation yet?
No.
Okay. So this is where you would do it. Of course, you would need to select the lot and you would have to have their name. And once those fields are in there, all that should generate in there. And I'll show you how to do that in a moment. But that's where if you're trying to generate paperwork like a home site reservation, a spec contract, or a build, this is where you would go to populate all those things. Colors and styles, don't use that. Everything is determined in selections. Financing is really only done during purchase agreement. So it's like if you're putting the meat on the bones over here, you're probably needing to go into the financing tab, and this is where you would select their lender and what loan type, and as well as the sales info. You're only in here during contract too if there is a realtor on the deal, you would have to put it in here, as well as if it is a contingent contract, this is the fields you would put that in under. So it populates on the contingency addendum as well. So just so you guys know where all those are at, but 90% of the time you're going to be under selections, and then during contracts you'll be under agreement with those other tabs. Okay? Feel good about that?
Yeah.
Okay. Am I moving too fast, or?
I'm going to take some notes real quick.
Okay. Yeah, no sweat. I'm going to record this and we'll upload it so you guys have it for reference too. So if you miss anything, no sweat. So let's start from the top here. You see that there's a house lot under this lot model here. This comes with probably a bigger warning here, just knowing that this is a live system. If you click the magnifying glass here, what you're going to be able to do is look at live inventory. And if it's available, you will see it in here. And if you select it, you are removing it from inventory. So unless if you're doing a home site reservation, this is the only time that you'd want to do that. And that's why, like, we were trying to train towards, like, hey, I'm going to send an email that says I'm reserving this home site to the team, because what you don't want to do is obviously take a home site out of inventory without it being sent out that has a check that's reserving that. It starts turning into, like, you're obviously time kills all deals, right? You want to make sure that I thought that was available. Are they tying it up? Is this a legitimate reservation? So just be very aware that if you're going to take this off, that you're doing it as a legitimate home site reservation and you're sending it in to the team, so that way they know that you're reserving it. And of course, the only way that you can do a reservation is if they're writing you a check, right? Are they writing you a check to do that reservation? And so all you would do is find the home site. And you can see here, this column here has your lot. I'm going to tell you guys something that I wish I had known a long time ago. And you guys don't really do blocks, so this isn't as big of a deal. But if you had, you can see the house number this is the lot right here, separated by a 0. the block would be right here in the middle. And so if you're ever looking at house numbers, you can know, because sometimes your reports will pull that way. Just know that these last 2 digits here, or the last digit, whatever that might be, that's your lot number. And typically this one on the far left here where it says 1, that's usually phased. So I know you might not do additional phases, but maybe if you had an additional one of like Pleasant Hill and its phase 2 would be 02 00000, whatever. That way you can numerically categorize what it is by its house number. Does that make sense? But because you guys don't do blocks, it's not as probably confusing for you because it's just the last numbers on the sequence of values here.
Not to be confused with case numbers.
That is correct. Yeah, actually, that's a valid point. Right here is what John is talking about. There's a case ID, which you will almost never use, but basically every time you create a new customer, they're assigned a case ID number, but we're always looking them up by name anyway, so it doesn't really matter, but in the case that you had to look them up, that's what that is. But don't get it confused with your house number. That's your lot and address. So obviously if it's here, it's available. If it's not, then it's not available. And I'll show you in a moment kind of how to check something like that. If you select one, so let's just say we're doing 722 Swiss Road, I just double click. This is what I mean by knowing what lot you selected. By not even going into the magnifying glass, I can see the last number 6, which is lot 6. Follow? Yeah, okay. So by also selecting that, it generates this, which is what we put under house file maintenance as notes that pertain to that home site. So it's important. So we know that this is only patio only, and I guess there's additional notes that maybe didn't make it on there, backs up. I don't know, John, if you know any further details there, we might need to correct the way that that's written. But those are your lot comments. So, but it's still good enough to know that it's a patio only, right? You guys are going to have to use your plat to refer to some of these as well. It's just there to kind of keep you from making those mistakes because we'll put restrictions on some of them. Like we could technically go through and restrict floor plans per lot. So if you selected lot 6 and you try to go into model and you can't find a plan in there, it's not a mistake. It's usually because it's been restricted. You can't build that plan on that home site. So we could actually go into that further at some point, John, if you wanted to, and go in and say, hey, the Obsidian is the only plan that can be built on there. If you really want to take the guesswork out for the salespeople or yourself, we can restrict it to only be the Obsidian on that home site. But I only say that it's not a mistake if it's not there. It's usually intentional because it's keeping it's restricted for that reason. So that's where that information will generate. Sometimes it'll say like you can change the garage orientation. By default, we're going to put in, like as Jeff and the guys go through, they're going to put in what is best for that home site or is predetermined for that home site. And occasionally you'll bump into one that's like, it can be right or left, but we'll put it in as a right and the customer wants the garage as a left. You'll have to get John or management involved in changing the orientation. You see how it's grayed out? It's because that's not something that is usually a choice. It's predetermined the majority of the time when the community is developed. So under model here, if I click these binoculars, you'll see the floor plans that I can select in specific to this lot and the neighborhood. So say we hit the amber here, which this is why we were talking, if you guys look at your flyers, this is why you have a model code, and AMC is an amber crawl, right? That's how we know when we look at it what that is, because that's how our reports will run and that's how they're identified in MarkSystems. So we got ahead of the curve knowing what that is in our price matrix because we knew that's how it was going to be in MarkSystems. Elevations, kind of the same thing. If you pull this up, every floor plan has 3 elevations. And instead of going to the matrix and selecting an elevation A, B, or C, you have to do it here. That's why when we open up the slideshow here in a moment, it's the first thing I'm going to ask is where are we building, so we know which one to pull up. what floor plan and what elevation, because I can't even start pricing out until I have all three of those things. So if they have a favorite floor plan, narrow one down, at least for the sake of the price out. And if you've got to do a second price out with them to do a line by line comparison with them, then you can do that on a separate case record if you need to. And obviously elevations also change in cost because you're talking a structural change to the roof, right? Because over the gable of the front bedroom for elevation B, and then elevation C usually has it over the garage and the front bedroom, right? So you're talking different cost here. So just that's why the survey asks it, and that's why we go over it first with them to toggle through so they can get an idea of which one they want. Obviously, elevation A is the included one, and then B and C, respectively, will be more as it goes up. Just so you know, as far as the code goes, you see where it says CA2, CB2, and CC2. C attaches to the last letter of this model code. That's how we know it's a crawl. That's your elevation, and that's your garage count. You see how it's CA2? So AMC CA2. So I know it's an amber crawl, elevation A, 2-car garage. If we were to pull up one that has a 3, you would see a 3 at the very end. And if it's a basement, you'd start with the BA2, So just so you know, and of course the description spells that out too, but that's important information to know. So we'll go ahead and double click elevation A, and then in a lot of cases with MarkSystems, once you put something in, you see how it's highlighted in blue and nothing's really happening. You actually have to click off and away, and you can see everything's working and generating now. It doesn't really register that you clicked until you click out of the field. Don't ask, it's just the way that it is. So once I click out, you can see that all that grayed area is generated here where it says addendums. And what we can do now is, I'm going to show this to you, but it gets on my nerves, and I understand why it does it. But if I hit add, this little guy is going to pop up. It's going to say, you need to specify what addendum you're wanting to put these items on. And really, it makes sense, but sales, we only really ever deal with one addendum. It's the first one, right? We're putting everything in there. And only in the case that you have a separate design studio appointment or change orders are you dealing with another addendum that needs to affect the previous one. And poor John had to do that just this last week of having an addendum to sometimes remove options and change them. So fortunately, you guys don't really have to deal with that. That's more of a management thing. But all it's saying is, I want to know what addendum you want to put it on. And the reason why I act like I'm frustrated with it is because in sales, like I said, we're only dealing with one. So it's like, come on, I only want to put it on the first one. So here, what we're going to do is we're going to hit new addendum. And this little guy pops up, and it just wants to confirm, are you wanting to do it for today's date? Which I don't see why you wouldn't, but it's asking. And then, of course, what salesperson. And the only reason why this would ask is sometimes, for example, if you had a design appointment after this one, you might have a designer that has a separate code. So that way they know they're the ones that modified that. Does that make sense? So maybe, Sam, you were the initial one on addendum 1. Maybe, when you guys have a silver or gold series, the designer will get it and create a second addendum, and that one will be under their name, not yours.
Okay.
Because they're making modifications to it. So that way we know who made the changes and who we have to talk to when those modifications were made. In your case right now, it's not necessary, but it could be in the future with a silver or gold product. Okay. So right now, I'm just going to hit OK. I'm not really concerned about having a salesperson on there. I didn't put one to begin with, and I'm not going to put one on here right now. It's not required yet. So you can see right now where it says selected addendum is 001, and it's today's date. We're set. It's first addendum. We're good. I just also want to make you aware that you can technically create more than that, and it just goes up in the numerical value 002, 003, so on and so forth with each addendum. And when you click this, you'll see more of them. But like I said, you should only really ever have one. So if for whatever reason you kind of did a price out and you accidentally hit new addendum and you're like, where are all my options? I'm freaking out. That's why it starts by all addendums, and then you need to select the one that you're wanting to put the items on. And I also only say that because say you're doing a price out now and you close it and you have to open it up later, it's not going to by default open it up on the first addendum. It's going to be by default be all addendums, and you're going to go in there and try to add, edit, or delete, and it's going to say, whoa, slow down, which one are you wanting to do it to? And that's where you would come in here and select it. Side note, as a neat little trick, if your mouse has a wheel, if you hover over this and just slide the wheel, it'll automatically just change it to, if you're scrolling down, it'll change it to addendum 1, or if you keep scrolling, it'll change to the other addendum. So you can see I'm hovering my mouse and I'm literally just wheeling it up and down. So you don't have to click in there and click it if you don't want to. You guys follow? Neat little trick, insider trick,
Pro tip.
What's that?
Pro tip.
Oh, pro tip. Like and follow for more. Okay, so after that, really the only other things you're going to be doing the majority of the time will be add and edit and delete. I almost never hit edit because if you double click on the option that you put in there, it opens it up as edit. So I almost never click that button, but here's add. And so if we click that button, this is essentially the matrix that you worked off of. It's got all the items in there and it should look pretty familiar to you, Sam and John. But over here, it says option, and that's your option number. And just know that it's in numerical order. It's not by option category, but by option. So if you see it starts at 06001, and as we go up, it's ascending in numerical value all the way up here, right? Right now we have all option categories, but just like the sheet on the price matrix, you can click on this and you can narrow it down by what category you want to do this in. But the cool thing about the slideshow is you have the number on there, and so you're not really having to search for anything. If you're looking at the presenter view, the number's in there, and all you got to do is type in the code, and if you click add here, you can actually see if I clicked and dragged off, it's giving me a preview of what this option is. It says appliances, kitchen package, freestanding electric level 2. And if I hit add, you can see that it's kind of giving me a confirmation box. Here's what the option is. You're almost never going to deal with a quantity situation except for fencing. And you can see the price here. So if they're like, well, how much is it? So you can actually type in the option code, pull this up and tell them that's $245 to go to level 2 electric. And they're like, okay, that sounds good. You can hit okay and add it, or you can hit cancel and back up if you want to. So in this case, we'll just hit add. And for whatever reason, this guy really wants to be seen. So we're just going to move that. And it goes back to this box because it's assuming that you want to add more things in. If I close this, you can see that we've now added this to our addendum. We're starting to build out the house here. And like I said, you could click on it and hit edit if there was something you were wanting to change. In this case, there's nothing to change. If you were doing something like flooring where you're selecting your carpet or your LVP, like your color, this is where you could do that. Or you could just double click and it opens it up. So that's why I say I almost never click the edit button, because I just double click on the option. You can also hit delete here to remove it. And you can see by scrolling over, you can see quantity and then the price right here. Now I'm going to come over here and just show you guys the sales summary again. So for an amber crawl, the base price in this community specifically is $246.5. For the lot we selected, it's a $5,000 lot premium. So now we're at total base cost, just base, $251.5 with no options. And then plus options, which is what we just added, is the level 2 electrical appliance is $245. And as we continue to add them up, just like on the matrix, as you click the button to add them, that starts to toggle up there. So you can see the amount of options added here and then what your total is now. Okay. go ahead and add here. I'm going to show you.
Just pipe up.
Is it Jordan?
Yeah.
Hey, Jordan.
Yeah.
So that price sheet off to the right, once that's, I know I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but will that kick over to the client where we can send that to them, or how does that part work, or will you get there?
Yeah, I'll get there.
Sorry.
Basically, this is where you'll add everything in there, and then under the agreements tab, you can export it as a PDF or a contract. So yeah.
Okay, perfect. I'll wait for that. Sorry.
No problem at all.
I think I found in reports, you can just print it out from there, I think. Like it's, yeah.
Yeah, there's a couple different ways. I'll show you the way that I think is the best way to do it because it still breaks it down by category and is the easiest way to read for the customer. But I'll show you that in a moment.
Okay.
So this guy right here, so like say we're adding our cabinets. If we double click and open this up, you can see now that there is a select colors tab. And if there's one here, you need to select something. So in fact, if you don't, and I hit OK, it's going to tell me I didn't select anything. Now, just so you know, you can override this and hit OK again. It's just going to give you one warning, and I can go in and just hit OK and move on. But that's not a habit you want to be in because we need to know the color for the sake of the POs and the contract, right? So if you ever got to go back in there and select the color, I just double click on the option, hit select colors, and this dialog box will pop up, and I can choose shaker gray or white. Okay. So I'm gonna double click, and you can see that it populated under locations and colors. That's not something I can manually change or type in. It's only under the select colors box. You can hit OK.
Okay, so if we're going from survey to price ad appointment, we won't know at that time what their color selections are.
Correct. Yes. So what you may end up doing is purchasing the option without the color. So it'll say, hey, you didn't select the color, hit OK, move on, add the next thing. And just know when you're doing the slideshow with them, you're asking them, yes, yeah. You'll literally just go in there, find the option, because remember, it's in numerical order on that left-hand side if you're trying to look for it, because this list is going to start to grow as you add your items in, right? You can come in and find your option, double click, open it, select your color, and then change it or add it at this point.
Okay.
Yeah. Good question.
I just picked like the most common, then I thought, well, if I have to change one or two things, then. Yeah,
it's a two-edged sword only in that if you guess right, you cut your work in half. If you guess wrong, you got to go back and change them. So it works both ways. And just the easy thing is that everything has to match, right? If you're doing shaker gray, it's gray throughout the whole thing. And so when you're pulling out your addendum and you're looking at it and you're literally going down the location color selection, if there's something that's different than shaker gray, you got to go in and change it. Because once you get that purchase agreement turned in and it's going to be reviewed, it'll get kicked back as, hey, you didn't change this color. You know what I mean? It'll be the same with plumbing fixtures. Now, you can select something else, but the rule is that they will all match, if that makes sense. I can't keep you from selecting the wrong one. You're just going to have to select the right one every time. But there's human error in it, and you'll just have to make sure that it lines up. And I'll show you as we go through what that would look like. It's not complicated. It just where it gets a little hairy is like, say they do level 3 black plumbing fixtures, obviously affects a lot of things in the house, right? You're talking hardware, door hardware, and electrical fixtures, right? All is black. And if they're like, oh my gosh, that's how much ever of an option to put in, and let's just go back to the included Chrome, you're gonna have to delete the level 3, put level 1 in, put in Chrome, and just make sure that you didn't miss any of the options. So that part's the only thing that can be a bit of a pain is if they end up changing those, but you just gotta slow down and just build the sheet, right? That's why the slideshow is there. So it's kind of like, I don't know, did you guys ever work in the food industry? Yeah, I did. I came from food industry actually. And the last one I worked at, gosh, how long ago? 13 years ago was at Panera. And we had like a salad build sheet, and I don't know if where you worked, Sam, that it had build sheets for you too for like sandwiches or salads.
Dishes.
What's that?
So I washed dishes in high school. That's about it.
Yeah. No sheets for you there.
No, no.
They're like, yeah, just wax on, wax off. That maybe you still need a sheet for that. I don't know.
And sanitize.
Sanitize, right? You have the 3 compartment sink. Remember the soap, the rinse, and the sand.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I quit there, and they finally actually got an industrial dishwasher.
You're like, this is cheaper.
Jerks.
Yeah. So on those sheets, like, if you're building out like a Caesar salad, it was 2 scoops of the salad, you know what I mean? It was 2 ladles of the dressing, 1 scoop of the cheese, and then the croutons, and then 1 bag of chicken, and that was the build sheet to make the correct one. That's the way the slideshow is kind of viewed as. It's like it's your build sheet, and so when you're on that slide, it's going to say, "Hey, add these items," and some of them are conditional based upon what they selected last. So that's why in the initial part of this training that we're going to talk about is like it's important that you click the right buttons. There's not a left or right. It's not a next button slide. It's you click on the slide and hit the thumbs up, and it's going to go where it needs to go. And you'll see that a lot of it's very conditionally based on like, is it a crawl or is it a basement? Is it are you doing the upper cabinets, the level 2, or are you doing the lower or the level 1 included? So we can give you the right option code to plug in. So you're purchasing the right option at that for it. And so I literally went through with someone else the other day, and I did an audit of the whole slideshow, and every option code's in there. So if you're following the slideshow, the entire home will be built out. But if you're not, you're going to miss things, and the house will not be built out properly. You won't set proper expectations, and you can bust deals because you didn't add certain things. And trust me, ask me how I know. I mean, there was times like we had carpet in the was standard in like the living room and the common areas. And I've had to resurrect certain deals where they credited the carpet out and then didn't put the tile in there instead. And so now you're talking, they got a deduction, but didn't get added the $6,000 tile that they were supposed to put in there. And now you have to explain that to the customer. You kind of get off on the wrong foot with them because it's like, well, we priced it out and that's your fault because you didn't put it in there right. And they're right because we should have put it in the right option. And what we found over the course of time to help with the learning curve of it is the slideshow is their answer. And I'll show you guys some of the details in there of like kind of helping you make you look like a pro. And if there are certain things in there, like especially you, John, there's things that you want to add in there that are more clarifying things for that option or common objections for certain things, we can put that in there to help you guys overcome those problems. So you can just read the stuff on the bottom of the slide, and I always have to remember what those are because what we handle, there's a lot of variables, right? I mean, you're talking how many ever floor plans you guys have, with how many ever options you have, with how many elevations you have, how many lots and how many communities are you building in, and that's in one series. You know what I mean? So to memorize that stuff, yeah, that comes with time, but until you get there, you have to have some kind of reference point, and that is literally the purpose of the slideshows, to be able to do that and to build them out. So
is there any way to make like a cheat sheet for all the level color options, like which one's in a 2 and which one's in a 3, or is that in the presenter view as well?
it is in the presenter view. That's also why I asked the other day about stickers too, because I think that's a good visual for both you and the customer. If you've got, a silver or gray little round sticker that you can put on the option for your color level 1, and then a green fluorescent sticker for your color level 2, so they can easily indicate, like, I'm grabbing an LVP that's a level 2 and this is clearly an upgrade, and it corresponds with the slideshow, knowing that anything that has green on it means money and that you're adding something to it. So that way they're like, I didn't know I picked a level 2. Because again, ask me how I know. We would do a price out, and they're like, I didn't know, I wouldn't have picked this one, that kind of stuff. It really takes all the excuses out, and it makes a better customer experience too. But that it'll be indicated there, and then I'll also show you the slideshow too. We'll have them. Anything else too? I think probably the main thing I'm really missing is I know you guys haven't really built them, but stained cabinets. When you guys have one of those, I'd like a photo of just to give a representation of one on the slideshow. But you guys did give me your sample, so that's good enough. I just need one in context with the house, right? So I'll show you that. All right. Also, just so you know, and it's doing it to me right now, I'm trying to click here and it's giving me some feedback. I'm not sure if you hear it chirping at me, but it's like saying, something's wrong. The windows sometimes get a little turned around. You got to make sure that you got to find the window that's open, that's keeping you from doing it. And sometimes that means you got to come to the bottom and find it. You get what I mean? Here it is. I'll click on it and pull it up so I can hit cancel now. The windows sometimes get a little funky in order. So, okay. All right. We're going to go over the slideshow stuff and how this lines up now and what you're doing. One thing I want to show you before I forget is we're on a lot right now and we're tying it up. But if you come in here and hit the magnifying glass and say they want to remove their reservation, or you were just doing it for the sake of the price out, you can just click remove lot. And it's going to tell you, hey, just so you know, this might affect your pricing. And of course, we know that because there's a lot premium tied to it, right? So just drop the lot premium. I freed up the home site. It'll be back in inventory again. Lot premiums to 0. But you want to usually have a lot for the sake of the price out because that's your most accurate pricing. Because you just saw that affected our base cost by $5,000 by just selecting that lot. And that's not chump change, right? So make sure that when you're talking about home site reservations, that you're clearly communicating that. So that way that's not a surprise to them when you're talking about premiums. For the sake of a home site reservation, let's go ahead and just select one again for fun practice. Tie it up. Go to the agreements tab and go to sales agreement. So you have 2 on the bottom. Just so you guys know, selected addendum would give you the price out, the one that you were talking about, Brady. If you hit selected addendum there, that would generate your pricing. Obviously, we only had 1 item on there, so that's not what we're doing right now. Here's your sales agreement. So we'll click that and it'll pull up this dialog box here. It's pulling the contract that totally skipped the fields. Might have to, it's just generating the contract automatically and not giving me the option of which one I want to do for a home site reservation. So I'm going to take a note of that.
Okay, that's how it changes from prospect to agreement.
Yes, I was actually just about to mention that. So good eye. Prospect to agreement is basically after you hit the sales agreement button, it generates that because it's saying that it's kind of like a trigger that says, okay, this person went from prospect to you're trying to generate a home site reservation or a contract. So it changes from prospect to agreement. Then eventually, once it's ratified, it'll be changed to like under contract. And then of course there's even closed. So you'll see the statuses on the back end as they are going through the process of whether the contract has been ratified.
Sales agreement, select addendum, and then what?
Yeah, so that's what I was about to say, so sales agreement here normally pulls up a dialog box to ask which purchase agreement you're trying to do, whether that's where you would get the home site reservation from. But what it's doing right now is just populating the contract, and I don't think it should be doing that. So I just took a note because something I feel like is broken, or there might have to be a workaround. So if you're going to do the contract, you would hit agreements, sales agreement. You can also see contract date automatically populated here because I didn't put it in. If you need to change that date retroactive, you can come in here and change that before you hit sales agreement so it populates on there correctly. But you'll need to do agreements usually, and then also an addendum. Your addendum has all your options, your contracts, all of your contract stuff. So, but yes, that did change their status to agreement by clicking
So
that.
I've got one in there right now. It shows prospect, but I don't know how to, and we've got a signed contract on it. I just don't know how to convert it over to,
Yeah, did you do your contract through here?
no.
Then that's why. Yeah, if you had clicked sales agreement and either had them sign it in person or send it off electronically, it automatically would have done that.
Okay, so how do we get around that with our, yeah, like our I don't know, I guess.
Well, I mean, those are going away. All the contracts will be done through here, except maybe if it's a completed spec
Right.
house. I think that's maybe the only exception. Didn't you guys do that? Did you still use
Yeah, we
your
still use
contract?
the spec through there too. And basically, just so you guys know, if you come over here and under the lot, so you're going to create their name. And if you come in and select the spec under the house and lot, so this one right here, for example, the 734 Swiss Road, if I select that, all of the addendums in that house import into this case record, and then you could go to agreements and then generate the contract from there with all of the selections and everything that are in there. So that part's pretty cool, because it's probably one step ahead, but what I've seen salespeople try to do is open the spec. So like say instead of coming in under here and finding the spec like this one right here, they'll open it and try changing the name of the spec to the customer. Do you get what I'm saying? What you need to do is create your customer first and then import the spec so you're not messing with the original spec. You're importing it. It doesn't break it. It just imports it to that customer. And if they're not going to end up buying that spec, you just release it like you would the lot, up here. And just hit the binoculars and remove it from there. So that's all.
So since I used a different contract, how do I get that one from prospect to agreement then in
So
there?
that might be a question for John, whoever's processing it. You may, at the end of the day, you will either have to send it off that way and just say, hey, we need to have you guys sign it on this one. This is the new one. Or you're manually going to have to push it through its stages. So.
Because I just think that other agents are, I don't know, are we going to have this when other agents send us an offer?
Yeah, and that's
they're going to send it on.
We'll usually tell, well, that's not an option for a build, by the way.
Right.
But for
like on a spec or something, say we got a completed spec, somebody or one that's under construction, back completed, whatever.
Yeah,
they're just buying it as is. What's the way you guys used to do it, or
the
procedure recommend for handling that?
Yeah, what we always did is even if they send it in under theirs, we would tell them that's fine, but they're going to still have to sign it under ours, and there's just supplemental paperwork that they have to sign that's specific to the builder. So they would still end up doing ours, and so that way it can be in the system and that we're running it through the way that we need to. And theirs would it's just supplemental paperwork basically to theirs.
Did you guys put any verbiage on the MLS letting realtors know it's like, hey, you can send us contracts or whatever, but builder has specific documents that you will need to sign?
No, I don't think we did specifically. It was more of a conversation. Like if they sent one in directly, we'd let the office handle some of those, but for the most part, like if the salesperson was involved, it was more of a bit of a dialogue with the realtor themselves. and just explaining like well, and that's also why we're doing a lot of the meetings that we can, so we can educate them on how we're doing a lot of them, because they don't know how we're doing it. You know what I mean? Building's different than resale. But like even if they did, we would just tell them, hey, that's fine. We just got some supplemental stuff that we need on our end. So
And so basically, you still just send them you'd fill it out and still just send them the whole contract package.
pretty much, yeah, it's gonna
Okay.
cover some of the things like warranty and things that are specific to the builder that are not stipulated in the real estate contract.
Okay.
I guess it would be kind of like we have it now, just additional builder docs.
Yeah, that's pretty much
Well, we
Yeah.
wouldn't put those on the MLS though.
correct.
We're just if I don't know if we need to word it some way or just whenever the agent, because usually we don't get offers out of the blue. Agent
Right.
calls first, so
Yeah,
it's happened, not a ton, but it's happened. But
Yeah.
To where it's like, hey, you can go ahead and send us a contract, or you just give me all the information. I'll send you out a contract to you and your clients.
Yeah.
Because we is there a way to CC whenever we're doing an agreement through there? Is there a way to CC somebody on it to where they could at least see it?
I believe that there is through DocuSign. The obviously the other way to do like who are you talking about specifically?
Well, like if their realtor wants to just be looped in.
Oh yeah. So because I would totally do that, and that would be under the sales info where you have the co-op agent and their broker there, and as long as their fields are in there correctly, they should be generated on that contract too. So I would 100%.
Perfect.
And of course, there's a portion in there that talks about that, and those fields will generate on there too, for the realtor and
So for compliance on our KW system, at the end, we will just be able to print this save this contract as a PDF and then upload it into our audit system.
Yeah, so let's see if I can. I have you played with how it generates in DocuSign yet, John?
No, we haven't really got. I mean, I think we briefly touched on it, but we haven't got that far yet.
Okay. So if you're doing it in person, you hit sales agreement and then selected the contract. In this case, if you hit sales agreement, it's just generated the contract right now. You would be able to have the paperwork there, and then they can sign in person, and you can turn it into the office, or you can click send electronically, which that's not something that we had set up at Shaw, and that's why we're setting up you guys this way. It's a lot easier. That's great. Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to be able to help with that one right now. But right now, Sam, it would just be hitting sales agreement and generating the PDF itself for them to be able to sign the paperwork here in person. I don't know what it was asking for there, and I don't want to send anything out. So we might have to A/B test that, John. But all of your fields are here to fill out, and then obviously the DocuSign is recognizing those fields and will autofill and populate based off of what you filled out in the customer prospect area. And I believe you'll be able to customize like people to view only, and then those that need to sign. You know what I mean? The funny thing is, know a lot on signing in person with MarkSystems, and I know a lot on DocuSign. I haven't done them both at the same time. So I'm kind of curious on making sure that it populates correctly. So we'll have to work on that a little bit. But I know you can through DocuSign. It's pretty user friendly. And there was even times that we used, Adobe Sign to plug in the fields if we have to send them off electronically. So.
And I need to make a tweak to the contract here because it needs some page breaks because it's been spilling over.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's not going to be perfect on some of it, but yeah, there's probably some cleaning up that can be done here.
And then the contract is the only document we will be doing in here. Everything else will come from our compliance team.
Well, this portion is one of the pieces that you'll end up needing. you'll need the addendum as well, because the addendum has all of your selections on as part of your contract. Typically, what I would like to do, and I can give you guys a bit of a list of like building out the purchase agreement, but you would usually want a floor plan flyer, the one that they're building, circle the elevation, and write the garage orientation on there and have them initial that too. Usually we'll do a community plat and circle and highlight the lot they're building on, and have them initial that one as well, as well as the current incentive would all need to be plugged in. Like those are additional things that I will just add to the purchase agreement at the end. Just to, those are things that kind of cover your guys' rear. Those that have the most paperwork will win. And if you can get that with an initial on there that it was explained so that doesn't come back to bite you. People will be surprised that they signed off on a lot they didn't think they were building on. The floor plan they didn't know they were building, the elevation they didn't think that they were building, and that's the way that you cover all those things. So I'll try to get you guys.
Okay, well, we usually have what I send out as the contract agency agreement, and then a contingency if they need it, or government loan writer. So will we just do the contract and those supplemental documents in here and then go over to our other system to send those things?
I mean, based off like just what I said, those would be the only other things I would add, and then their pre-approval letter, and that's to me is one binder in my mind. It's all the same. I don't know if there's anything outside of that else that needs to be sent out besides what's in this contract.
Okay. I just know that we have requirements on certain documents to turn in to our broker.
John, you'll have to answer that. I'm not sure what you guys are requiring.
Well, she's asking like if we have to listing documents, which that's fine. And she's saying like if they're FHA or VA or something, we have to have a government loan writer in there.
Or, well, and the agency agreement too. That's a big thing right now.
Yeah, well, I mean, for some of that, we'll end up having like the realtor protection form that would be turned in with it. Of course, the realtor's on there as well. But I don't know quite logistics with your guys' brokerage. What else needs to be added to the purchase agreement? So,
okay, I'm just wondering about the agency agreement.
Well, that's something that can just be kept in command. I mean, I don't even know how. I'd have to ask compliance wise if it's because it's if we even really need it in our folder because we're just saying yes, we'll pay you, or as much as they just need it saying, hey, I've got proof that you're supposed to be paying me. So we'll figure that out logistically here.
Okay.
yeah, I mean, that's totally up to you guys. The realtor protection form and their name on the contract is usually adequate for that, but I don't know the hoops you guys got to jump through to make that happen. So,
okay. So say we have to do like a couple of outside forms like that stuff. Is it so that way we have it all in one place? Will we need to load that into MarkSystems?
no, those are just like a couple of the supplemental ones that you'll have to do, and that'll just be in your sales drive, and it's usually under forms and contracts that are there. So if there's any of that stuff that needs to be there, like I said, I'll give you the list of like, hey, put the floor plan. Of course, that's in your sales flyers, right? Your community plat is in your sales flyers, so you just print that one out. If you have the additional agreement that you're talking about that you have to put on there, I'll put that under the forms and contracts. So that way, you know that on every contract, you got to have that piece, just print them out or have them printed out and just have them part of your purchase agreement. And that might just have to turn into, well, that's sent separately. Hey, just giving you a heads up. I got to send you another form here in a moment. This is the bulk of the purchase agreement. You guys are going to see a couple more forms coming that way. So that way they know what they're signing is relevant and correlates with what they're the same thing. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. And like I said, I'll put together a list. There's a couple things you'll want to add to it. And if there are a few more that you guys have to, that's totally fine. It'll just end up being separate from what they're signing here. And if I remember, John, correctly, if they're that sales agreement and that addendum, those are two separate binders that are sent in emails. They're not the same ones. So it's probably not super uncommon for them to get the contract and then their selections and addendum and say, hey, I'm also going to send you a separate one that has like the basically the binder we just talked about, the floor plan flyer, the community plat, the incentive, the pre-approval letter, and then whatever agreement you got to have, and just put that in a binder and then send that off for signatures too. That's probably totally fine. Just want to make sure you
Okay.
have pieces and that's not being sent sporadically everywhere. You know what I mean? So,
Sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure on a couple of the other ones. If there are anything, just let us know and we'll put it on there. We'll on the agenda and we'll discuss what like the best practice for it would be, or if it's even necessary.
Yeah, we'll get that. We'll get that all ironed out.
Okay. I'm not sure in your guys' area if there's anything that's additional to that. So we need
Okay.
to
Now
no problem.
I'll get with the broker to see what they want.
Okay, so with I'm gonna pull this guy up here, pull up our slideshow, just in case you guys were wondering where it was at. If you guys go into the sales drive, and go into presentations, you'll see right here, price out Flintrock Homes, and just click on that bad boy and open it up. So this is it sounds like your part came in, Sam. Does that sound right?
Huh?
Your docking station, you got your cord in?
Okay, I didn't quite know this was happening today at 10, so I got my cord to connect my extra screen, the laptop with MarkSystems. So, and then I've got my TV behind me, so I just don't know how to connect it all and have my settings right to where I can just pop it open and be ready to go.
Yeah.
We'll be by there today. I'll help you out with that.
Okay.
Perfect. Yeah, usually once it's set up once, the computer's smart enough to remember the configuration the next time you plug in the docking station, remember what it is. It's just the first time. And so once you have your screen set up by hitting identify and putting on the spots that you want and the order that you want, it should remember it from then on out. I wish I could show multiple screens at the same time. So we're just going to talk about screen 1 and screen 2 for a moment here. When you have this guy up here, this primary window is going to be the one that's going to be on the TV that's behind you. And the reason being is if we come up here to the upper right-hand corner and go to presenter view, it's going to undock this guy, which we're going to keep next to us with MarkSystems. And we're going to take this and drag this over to our TV. Because your TV is just an extension of another screen. And you would pull it all the way up to the very top and you can see how it's filling in and it'll be full screen just like this to your TV. And at the very bottom, you can hit these 3 vertical dots here and you can go into enter full screen and you can see that there is no address bar at the very top. It's like the full screen of that TV behind you will be, this is what they'll see. Now, and then on our screen, so I'm going to exit out of this just so you guys can see it. Of course, when I hit exit, I lost my little dock. This guy is what we have up next to our MarkSystems on our screen that's in front of us, right? You can adjust these here and fit it the way that you want to read as much as you need to. Let's see if I can hit home. And you can hit the plus to blow up the text. You can hit minus to make them smaller. This little button, the little buttons on this screen are interactive just like your main screen are. So you don't have to turn around to click on the buttons. But the big rule here, there are two of them. Don't use the next button. Even though it might take you to the right slide, you might not know that it does. Always click the buttons on the screen to go where you need to. So in this example, it says get started or directory. Get started will take you to a title screen that they'll see. Just so you guys can see, I'm going to move this over. So we'll pretend that this is the screen that they see. You can see if I click the little next button here, you see how these are mirroring each other. I can click on the 2 and the 3 down here, or I can come over here and click on them. So if you want to turn around, you can click on them, but this is the screen they'll see while you see like a little thumbnail preview of that screen. Now, I know the text can be a little hard to read on those, so anything that you have to read will be right here, and it's either going to be in yellow or it's going to be in green. And they're just indicators, so you know, yellow, hey, I've got to read this, and it's usually just regular information or included information. If it's in green, the thing or the option I'm talking about is going to be an upgrade, just so you know as you read it automatically that it's going to be an optional feature. At the very bottom of pretty much every slide, you'll have a home, directory, and a help. Home will always take you back home again, because you might get turned around in the middle of the slideshow. If you're in the middle of it and you're like, I totally misclicked somewhere, something broke, who knows what happened. Get back home and either start over again or go to the directory, which is also something that's usually at the very bottom of these slides here. You can see directory right here. And you also have help. Directory will take you to this slide where you can kind of navigate through these categories. And if you're like looking for a specific option, you can go in and say, I know we left off at head knockers. I'm going to click on head knockers and it'll take you there, and then you can resume from there if you need to. Do you get what I'm saying? So that way it can be a helpful thing to jump back in if you have to. Okay. And then your help is going to open up a whole separate thing. This is what I was telling you guys about that I'm going to end up building out for you in MarkSystems. This is a slideshow help guide. So basically everything I'm about to cover with you here on setting it up is like right here. So if you're like, I don't know about setup, I don't know how to set up my screen, what navigation rules there are, presenter tools, speaking outline, the speaker outline, shortcuts, and even a step-by-step for the price out matrix, and I'll put one for MarkSystems too. So like if I wanted to know like screen setup, I can click and come down here and you can see everything I just kind of showed you is like right here, step by step. Here's computer screen, here's TV screen. Here's an example how you'll set it up, how you go into full screen mode, how to escape from it, how to pull up. You see everything I just went over there, enter full screen.
Hey John, it's Vince. Control appraisal.
Navigation rules are here. So as I was telling you guys, don't hit next. If you're used to ever using PowerPoint before, don't hit your keyboard left or right. I should probably turn that red and not green, right? Stick with the buttons. You got thumbs up included, thumbs up optional, add this option, don't add, toggle on, toggle off, magnify, minimize, back to previous, more information, and not applicable are the buttons you'll typically see. And those are the ones that you need to be clicking. Let's see here. Other things like laser pins and speaker notes are all in here. Just so you guys know, it's in there if you need to go back to it for reference points. So if I hit get started, this is what they're saying. If I get going through here, and the whole purpose of a lot of the information on here, as riveting as it is that I'm covering it with you, you have to cover it with them. And the reason why I say that is you might do this twice, 3 times a day with a customer, but it's the first time they're hearing this information, and you cannot shortchange them by not covering it with them. You understand it, and sometimes you feel like you're being an inconvenience to them because you feel like you've said it a million times, but like I said, first time they're hearing it, so be thorough and cover it every single time with them. If there is a text on a slide or there's something highlighted in yellow in here, it's for a purpose and it's for a reason. And I guarantee you it's only there to protect you and to set proper expectations for you and your customer. Okay. A lot of this is based off of heartache and experience that we've dealt with and other builders have dealt with, that we can try to set you guys up for as much success as possible. And this is the thorough and the shortcut to building that, taking them through the process. And if you shortcut the shortcut, that's where you're setting them up for wrong expectations. So make sure, like I said, these are the same text here, but that you're reading this information to them every single time. So they understand what the purpose of the meeting is for, and that like in this example, most items can be changed. Well, actually, that one needs to be changed. That was prior to you guys doing MarkSystems. They'll have the opportunity to modify today's list in whatever way that they would like with no penalty prior to the purchase agreement. It's important to cover that so they know, like, hey, it's not written in stone unless you're doing a purchase agreement, right? So, like, if you guys are going to go home and fuss, cuss, and discuss your options and your colors, that's totally fine. And the whole point of this is just to give you information. You're building your dream home on paper. Sit back and enjoy the ride, relax. We got this. And then you jump in. And then the first things that we have to cover is just so they understand, like, they kind of have an idea of this from the survey, but just explain to them, hey, visually, anything that is in gray that looks like this, that's displayed, it's an included item. These are included items. They're free. Remember, nothing is final today. Just treat it like a shopping cart, and then you can click a little eye here for an example so they can see what a slide would look like. You know, just so they have an example. You can click the optional button right here, and it says anytime that you see green displayed, it's an optional item. These are optional items, and they're additional cost. Green means money. Remember, again, nothing is final today. You're just treat this like a shopping cart, and then you can hit an example of showing them what a slide looks like to add that. And you can just click away and hit next. And then again, important information. And the reason why I say this is, you know, we put together the color palettes for you guys, so that way they can see them. You guys have the selections inside the model as well. But there are variants in natural things like granite and quartz and wood and stains and things like that. And digitally speaking, they're going to be different than how colors seem on the screen even too. So that's why we have to have these things. Renderings, illustrations, and photos are for illustrative purposes only. Models and makes change because your appliance package may change, especially depending on availability. You know, there may be color variations on natural products such as wood, countertops, paint, stain, and other materials, and included and optional features are subject to change. It's there to protect you guys too. So you would just hit next. And then you may already know this, but we've got to make sure we know it before we get started in MarkSystems. Just like I talked about, I got to know the floor plan. I got to know the neighborhood. And I also typically got to know the home site. So if you haven't had the conversation with them yet about step number 3 in the 5 easy steps and that home site reservation, this is the time to do that because you can start helping them realize I can give you more accurate pricing and we can reserve your pricing for the time of the home site reservation and take it off the market at this time because you literally are doing that through MarkSystems when you select the home site. Okay. Now, if we hit next here, it's kind of like a general explanation of elevations because we're speaking a different language than they are. When we're saying elevation in architectural terms simply means the front of the home, right? In this case, we're talking about the style. At Flintrock, these are known as elevation A, B, and C, and they're illustrated on the floor plan accordingly. So there's an example there. And each elevation offers certain optional items that achieve that look. Items include shutter, cedar, accent beams, and stone. So those are things that we're going to end up covering with them that let them know just because there's a rendering there that shows that you still have to do things to achieve that look. Is that the look you're going for? And if that's the case, we're going to go down that path. If they don't, they'll still have optional things like shutters, you guys know are not included. They all offer them. Some of them will offer different beams and they all offer the stone, right? So there are just certain things that are going to be there that we're going to cover, but that just helps them understand what we're about to dive into. So in order for us to go into the right one, we would select the floor plan. So say we're looking at the amethyst. Click on that. It's going to pull up our amethyst right here, and you got a toggle button for elevation A, B, and C. Boom, 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 right? And so the cool thing that you guys are aware of is on your presenter view, you have all this information here. So like you can still toggle these buttons here. And at the very top, I always want to just make sure you know you went to the right slide. You're on the amethyst right now. That's why it's not in yellow, but it's for you to know you're on the amethyst. And the question here, starting off, is which elevation style would you prefer for this floor plan? Displayed here is the included elevation style A. So that's what you're supposed to read. And you have additional information here. Additional items will need to be purchased to achieve this look. If applicable, shutters, beam, packages, and stone are all optional features that we'll cover on the following slide. So the reason why that's there is you're not necessarily reading that to them, but if they ask, you have an answer, right? But even in red here, it says enter the plan and the elevation first. If you already have, confirm if there are any changes, just in case, you know what I mean? Certain options are restricted to the exact plan and elevation. So, you know what I mean? Like, you're not going to be able to add the cedar accent beams to an elevation 8. It's not there. Like, if you go into MarkSystems and you try to type in the option to do that and try to purchase it, it's going to tell you you can't, because you can't do that to an A. Or even here, if you try to purchase the one over the garage, you can't. It's not even in the system, like, for you to see. Now, you can punch in the key and it'll say you can't add this item. You can on this one. It's not restricted for this one because it's an option. Does that make sense? So it's limited to the floor plan and elevation, which is why we're asking to begin with, because it's a bit of a pain to work your way backwards if you select everything and then have to change it to A or B. Sometimes those options don't carry, and you got to make sure that options weren't deleted and your pricing isn't messed up. So that's why we start there first.
Raise the ceiling in the garage, or just keep it floor?
No, that's just, no, I mean, you'd have more attic space, but
Okay.
attic stairs aren't an option because that changes your structural in the garage, because all it is 2x6, and if you put in attic stairs, then it leaves us open for liability for people putting stuff up there, and they put too much weight up there and something cracks, something breaks, and it's like, oh, you didn't tell me I couldn't put anything up there.
Not to mention the way that it's framed out in there is for not a dead or a live load, right? So then it's not going to be able to categorically hold the weight of anything that's up there too. So you'd have to change the way that those are. So here, if you see, everything's going to usually have an option there for you to purchase it or add it, or it'll tell you that'll be covered further on the next slide. So in this case, it says enter the code below, but do not select the color. It is determined on the next slide. Keep the module open. So in this case, what we have to do is we're going to at least purchase our siding here, but we're not going to select our color yet because that's going to be done on the next slide. We got a couple other things to figure out first. So let's, for the sake of example, let's go ahead and what do we select? An amber elevation A. I'm going to hit back here and we're going to hit amber elevation A. So this is actually the code I would put in. So I'm going to hit add. So this is what I'm doing on my screen in front of me while this one's up on the TV behind them, right? So I'm going to type in 54001. You see the code right here, guys? And I'm going to hit add. And this is where I would select my colors, but it's telling me right now in the slideshow, hey, don't worry about doing this right now. You'll come back and do that. So we'll hit OK. And we'll add our option. And after we put our option in, then we can hit our thumbs up and move on. Don't want to get ahead of yourself and hit our little thumbs up and then move on from there, because what we have to cover next are things that are subsequent slides after. So you can see this is still the amber here. Amber elevation A, thumbs up. Now I'm going to ask about amber elevation A options. Do you want to add shutters? So you can see to them, it's just like, here's the indicator that there are shutters. But for us on this end, you see how the text is in green because we're adding it. Are you seeing that? So it says, would you like to add shutters? If yes, and actually I need to change this because it's only stained cedar. Enter the option below, and you can see it's saying that there are steps here. Enter the option code below, select the color button, and then select stained. And that's just what you'll end up having to do after we hit 54441. And just so you know, guys know, at the very bottom here where the option code is at, This is your option code number that you're putting in. This is in general what the item is, and this is more specific to what that item is. So let's go ahead and minimize this. So we'll do 54441, hit add, and it says by steps, hit select color button, and then select the color. Just so you guys know, there will only be stain cedar. These two will disappear. So you just click that. You can see we just generated our color. And then now that I've got it in there, I'm going to hit my check mark. Maybe. The funny thing was I was just working on that this morning, and I don't think it's doing it. Would take me here. I was hoping to have this done before you guys hopped on, but this is what I just built out yesterday for you because we just figured out the colors. There's a lot going on here, but this is an easy way to look at our color packages. And it's going to take us to this slide. And so you guys' color packages are a little dynamic, but I feel like this is probably the easiest way to explain it to them is you have front-facing colors and you have side-facing colors. And you're front-facing, and you can see it in the small font there, vertical siding and outside front corners. And then on your side-facing, you've got, your horizontal siding, outside back corners, which would be your back side and returns. So you got front-facing, and then your side here. It means your windows are white, your front door is going to be black, your garage door is going to be black, your soffit's going to be black. You're going to have Black River brick, or you're going to have a Smoky Mountain stone if that's what they choose to add. You see that? Package one. And if you click over here, you got these other packages. See that?
Are those all standard options for us?
Yeah, but everything but the stone.
Everything but the stone. Okay.
Yeah, stone is optional. Which is why it's in green there. But it's, and I need to put it on the other ones, but actually you can see it there. It says or there. So I know there's a lot going on here, but it's an easy way for them to look at it. Really, at the end of the day, you need to pull out your samples and let them see these together because there's nothing better than seeing the actual product versus a digital one. But this is a good point of reference to have up on the screen so they know which one that they're selecting. And basically, how I was just talking to you guys about recipe cards, that's an example of this one. Can you imagine that there's a lot of things that you're going to end up having to plug into MarkSystems right now? You got windows, you got a front door, garage door, soffits, brick or stone, and then your vinyl color, right? So you're going to have to take a second to build this out, but you'll have everything done and plugged in here, at least. So let's look at what that would look like on maybe this one here, and you can see which one's selected, it's highlighted. So in here, we're going to adjust this. It says packages are predetermined and cannot be changed. Which exterior color package would you like? And I even put it on here, of course. This is just a visual representation of the package, but this should give you a good idea. Here's package one, and just so you have the same text that's there. And then to your point, Brady, stone is in green here. It says in lieu of brick if picked. So you're either going to do the included brick or you can do this stone, but it's still predetermined. Here it even tells you pull out your samples for the customer, keep them out so you can match it with other exterior options if needed. With your module still open from the previous option, like we were just talking about, having that color. So how we just put this guy in, we had to ask a couple other questions, but now we can pull this back up and depending on, whoops, I clicked the wrong one. See how it says 54001 here? I can click on that, select my color, and based off of the package, I could select it here. And they're all predetermined. There's your front, your sides, and your soffits that are all there. So you just double click and add the color option. Whoops, looks like I lost my window. That they want in there. Hit OK. And then we're literally just going to go down the line here. So enter the option code below. It's black. So 38101. You can see here's my option. Now I see all three of them, but we're doing a recipe card right now, right? We talked about this earlier. If I'm making the Caesar salad, then I've got to put my Caesar salad ingredients in there. If I'm making a chef salad, I've got my chef salad build sheet. Right now, I've got the this one up right now. This is paint package 1. And right here it's saying enter the option code below, and I'm doing tricorn black for the door. So double click, hit OK. Now I've got to do this one. Enter the option code below and do rustic black. This is your roof shingles. See? Keep scrolling. Got this next one here. 56101. Add. Select colors. White. See that right here? Okay. And now let's do our brick. Or stone, depending on what they selected. Just so you know, just previously, if I hit this one back here, we would have asked them right here. Well, they'll see it on here. All of them offer stone. So it's shown on the C, but it's optional on all of them, just so you can see the variety of the options that can be added. So
They're going to put that in the price out survey too.
What's that?
They put that in the survey too. So you kind of know ahead of time if
Correct,
they're going to
yeah.
go.
I did make that adjustment because at the beginning, my understanding was that C was the only one that had stone, the option of stone. And now that I understand they all are. So yes, you're right. And that's the whole point of the survey. Ray, do you know much about the price out survey?
No, sir. This is technically my first week full force. So. Okay.
So not to work entirely backwards, and I can do a little bit of additional training with you if we need to, but there is we call it the survey, but it's really a price out app. And it's a lot of these questions, especially ones that incur costs that they get ahead of time. So they can go in there and select, like, do you want to add stone instead of brick on the outside? Are you interested in adding these cedar beams? You know, do you want a head knocker above the toilet in the kitchen? That way they're kind of thinking about this, and this is not the first time they're seeing this. What we're doing is kind of putting the meat on the bones and selecting colors right now. And so what's that?
Sam, is that kind of what you did for those clients for me the other day?
Yeah, so John had me send out the price out survey. That comes back, and then I can kind of start the price out from there.
Okay, cool.
And then as they come in for their presentation, then it goes, that's kind of how I explain it to a client, is that once they come in for the presentation, then it goes a little thicker into things.
Yeah. Well, and the best thing about it, Brady, is I've done thousands of price outs, and I've done them all a lot of the wrong way. And the best way to do it is this way, because you didn't realize that their marriage was hinging on like the head knocker in the bathroom. You know, and so like this allows them to kind of like literally fuss, cuss, and discuss before they're in front of you, because it gets awkward when you have to do that in front of them, and now you're a marriage counselor, and it just gets weird. Yes. Yeah. So in this case, and I mean, women already love to do this anyway. You're sitting on the couch, you guys are just watching Netflix or whatever, and she's already on Pinterest looking, and you get excited about like adding things to the house, so she feels like she's pricing out the home. So I'll pull it up just so you can see it. But like they'll scan a QR code, or you can send them the link to this, and they literally just work their way through. They got to enter in a little bit of information, but they'll work their way through. You can see it's explained the same way as the slideshow. As you're seeing, everything in gray is included, green's optional. Tells them how to use it, what community you want to build in, what floor plan are you thinking about building. Elevation is a further conversation, which is what we're doing right now. But at least I can get an idea or an opinion from them. Are you thinking you like this style? Here's an example of an amethyst, but do you like elevation A, B, or C in general terms, right? So they select that. Do you like the cedar trusses? Cedar accent beams that are at the top? You know, are you thinking, and it's conditional. So if they had selected elevation C, I'm going to ask them elevation C questions. I'm not going to ask them, do you want to add this to an elevation A? Because they can't have it. That's really mean. So don't do that. That's why everything that we ask is conditional, because you don't want to go down the road, well, can we change the roof of the A? And I'm like, well, then just do a B. you know, so that's the whole point of that. And then they get into, you know, shutters. Here's the stone cabinet. So you can see
What
even
the heck?
you got 30-inch uppers, 42. You want to add a tile backsplash. Here's what's included. Here's what you could have. Faucet, you know, single, double, you know, so that they're seeing a lot of this. And the cool thing about it is you guys it'll get kicked back in your sheet here. And you can come over here and line it up with your customer. Looks like I need to make some space for you.
Man, we got a ton in there now.
No. And the cool thing for you, Brady, can be practiced for you in MarkSystems too. So
Okay.
you got Allison Tillman here that you can actually, let's just line up this one because it's right next to it. Michael Gaiman. So you can see here what they selected, and you could go through and go ahead and put it in MarkSystems and kind of get ahead of it. You know what I mean? Get an idea, an opinion from them, and then you're just kind of fleshing it out when they get there.
And that auto populate for that.
Yeah.
Okay, sweet.
Yeah, the only thing I'm going to change for you guys in the future, it's just a bit of a heavy lift on my end, is I'm going to eventually have these populate your option codes for you. So I got to code out the formula to do it for you. So that way, when you're going down to, you know, for example, they want to do the great room light package right here, instead of yes, there'll be an option code there. And
That'll be good on the deck.
right. So that way you can just click and purchase it. And go ahead and add it in rather than just yes. But every time I train in MarkSystems, when someone's starting, I have them do it this way because I want you to kind of work your way around MarkSystems to find it. And then know the easy way is just entering the option code. You know what I mean? So just in case something breaks, you know, I want you to know how to do it and not totally be stranded. So that'll have the option codes. And if there's not one there, then you don't put one in because you'll have to deal with that when they come in anyway. So, I might end up putting them in both, but at least you have an idea because you can't even plug all this in the preliminary stuff without knowing that information to begin with. You know what I mean? So you'll at least get an opinion from them. They get kind of excited going through and selecting what they want, you know? So anyway, did I lose them? Are they still there?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't see them.
Give them a second to hop back on.
Well, we're waiting for them to come back on. So back to the exterior colors. So whatever color they pick comes with that brick too. They don't get to change their brick color
Correct.
or roof color.
Correct.
If they pick that siding color, they get that brick and they get that roof.
Yeah, it's a package.
Okay.
So this is package one, here's your package two, right? So front facing is the front of the house that has vertical siding, and anything that is horizontal and on the sides is glacier white in this.
I mean, I like it for me, but I just know that somebody's going to try to use it as an objection.
So you'll be surprised. Most of them, it's not usually a problem. Like we had a bronze product too, and most people were just, these are the packages that we have. And here's what I'll say. They also don't know any different. So for you have a recipe card. There's not the only modification you have on this recipe card is, do you want brick or stone? That's it. Everything else is like, you're getting white windows, tricorn black door, black garage door, and black soffits. It's not can I have a white door? Unfortunately, I mean, if you guys want the package, we'll find one this one gets you closer. But if you're wanting a white door and that's the big deal, you need to find the package that has it. And so maybe it's this one. Or just do this one if these get most of them and then paint it after you move in.
I just know I'm going to have someone be like, I want a white garage door, but I don't want, oh gosh.
Yeah. Well,
and then on the other double edge of that sword, like people have taken 3 weeks to figure out what siding colors they want.
Yeah, and you're not going to do that. So it just turns into, it is what it is. I mean, and I'm telling you, because the way that they're going to be trained at the main office is if this package doesn't meet what it is, your contract gets kicked back. And you're now going to have to explain to them, though you told them they could, now they can't.
Right.
And that's actually a bigger problem than just being frank and forward with them up front. You're just saying, it's just the packages that we predetermined because they match well together. All the colors blend well together. And we find that some people, most people really like it because it's a lot of options that go in there. And most people end up shooting themselves in the foot and picking something that doesn't look good. And here's what we found. And we found things, you know what the bell curve is? So, you've seen a bell curve, right?
Yeah.
And these are the top most popular ones that people like. And we try to get them in the grays and the whites, and we got a little bit of the tans too, but nothing that is, because the whole point is we want to protect the value of the neighborhood and your house too. So we don't want to get you something that is atrocious or that you get stuck with that you don't like either. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and people do think about the resale value later.
100%.
That's something they think.
No, this is a different conversation with a silver or a gold. And even then, in our gold series, we still predetermined our color packages. They just had more. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So
Yeah.
in this case, in fact, you guys have more than we did right now. But that's just the way that it is. And they're not going to find that down the road. Yeah, sure, you can pick them one off, but like they're not going to have it at the cost that you're going to have it at, and so just act like, why would you want to change it? You know what I mean? That's
Right.
basically what it comes down to. Don't dread it. Here's what I'm going to tell you. It's going to happen, but just say, no, that's just the way that we predetermine all the colors because these palettes our designers have put this together and the colors look really well together. And if
Yeah, I kind of like sticking with we've taken customer feedback and, these are the
100%.
most commonly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so don't dread it. And every once, if they're stuck on those two things, I'll just say like, then it turns back to, it's the macro micro thing. If you remember from Aaron's training, that turns into, hey, are you buying this floor plan because of the functionality of the floor plan or a garage door color?
Right.
So then you're getting into stuff like that. So you isolate the objection, you overcome by talking. It's that same stuff. So,
Gotcha.
John,
That
he was just talking.
another one I like to throw out to people is and it's worked quite a bit. It's like I can guarantee you can drive through our neighborhoods when we used to let people pick them out.
Yeah, you'll see it.
You can tell which ones people designed and which ones we designed.
Yes,
It's very obvious.
Yeah, I
Right.
just was telling her, I was like, we've just seen that people shoot themselves in the foot when we open up the paint deck and all that other stuff, and we've just
And it
learned
makes me nervous because then I can't see it until it goes up either.
Yeah, and so this is the bell curve. You have your beiges and browns, and you have your whites and your grays, and we've got a combination of all of those. And if it's that big of a deal after the fact, then they can paint some of those things. But like these are the packages we offer. This is the build card. So what I was telling them, Brady, is like, this is the build card. The only option they have to modify here is, do you want brick or stone? It's not, well, can I do package 2, but I want a white front door? It's not, no, that's this package here. But like I'm telling you, Sam, there was just not a lot of pushback there at all.
Good.
Every once in a while you have it, and it's just kind of like you saw it in resale in general, like, I really like this house, but I don't like the way the room's painted. Paint the room, who cares? You know what I mean? Like, so why is this you watch HGTV and it's like, that's a common objection. Like, you can't paint a room. You know what I mean? So it's just such a silly thing. And so it's sometimes people are just talking to talk, and some people like accent colors for their front door. So like, say this one, Sam, what we used to do is our shutters and front door would match. So we would allow them to do like an accent, like a fireweed red or something. So you have like a pop of color, a poppy yellow for a front door and the shutters on a white and black house. Looks nice because it's a pop of color. You get what I mean? But you wouldn't do that on a house like this. You get what I mean? So anyway, we allowed them to, that was one thing we kind of allowed them to modify, was that, and that here is the illusion of choice, is that you have 6 paint packages to pick from. You know what I mean? There's a lot to pick from, and each of those you can do a stone or a brick. So, and
I think this will help a lot.
100%. So, this lines it all up for you, but then your build card on there is right here. And so, like I was just showing you, we just went in and added each of those, and they're still probably sitting there, but you just got to do that with them in front of them. I'm telling you, you probably will feel a little bit of external pressure because they're sitting there waiting on you. Don't sweat it. Just have them look at samples and just say, hey, give me a second. I'm going to make sure I plug all these items in for you. It's not a big deal. That's why I also did the slideshow ahead of time. I would send colors out before, but like, what would be the purpose of them coming back? You know what I mean? So they need to come back to the slideshow, put the meat on the bones, and get them excited about building out their house on paper.
Yeah.
So once they've got it and you've added everything in, just as a note here, some slides will have, it says note at the very bottom. Garage door will be picked on a later slide. Just remember what color the package is. I think that's pretty easy to do, right? And if not, you can go back to the package and find out what it is and jump back if you need to. Maybe I'll even put a little button on there for you guys to jump back and forth. The reason why is there's two. One, you could either be purchasing it for a 2-car or you need a 2 and a third, depending on what floor plan they pick, or if they add a 3rd car garage and whether it's insulated or not. And those are 2 different garage codes. And we'll find that out later. So we can't purchase the garage door right now, but we'll be able to do it later, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So I'm just giving you a heads up, like, why am I not picking the door right now? The garage door. I know, we'll get there in a moment. That's what I put that there for. So you hit the thumbs up and it takes you over here, and now you got your little toggle buttons again. So here's your included 30. You can hit your 40. You see how it's changing? You guys like the 42-inch uppers, or do you like the 30? So on here, what you're seeing is, would you like the 32-inch upper cabinets that are displayed here? And it says item will be entered on the following slide. Because you're like, what do I do if they want this one? Don't worry about it. Hit the 42, or would you like the 42-inch optional upper cabinets in the kitchen? And they're like, I think I want the 42. Then it hits thumbs up, and it says at the very top, this option is 40 for 42-inch uppers. Specifically going here based off of what they selected before. That's why I'm telling you, you have to be intentional about the buttons that you're clicking. Would you like your cabinets throughout the whole home to be painted or stained? Painted is included and stained is optional. Right now, I think you guys have them as the same costs or just different levels, right? So you can just explain that and just say they're both technically included. So if you guys want stained, we have to separate them into levels because that is inevitably going to change. I'm just telling you that now. So you have to shelter them in levels. And right now we'll just say that even though it says it's optional, I just want you guys to know it's included. Do you want painted or stained? I just need to know which options to purchase, because right here, if you look at the slide, it says painted or stained. This is where I'm telling you I would like a stained photo that I don't have, like of this shop. So say I hit painted and I hit thumbs up. You see how we've got our little cabinet sample here, and I can toggle gray or white, right? And the reason why I'm asking those questions is how we're building it out. Again, see, this changes a little bit because I'm asking gray or white, and then how am I plugging these all in? If I hit back and I say stain, then I hit thumbs up, my option codes change because I'm buying a different level of product in a different color group. So my option codes have all changed. You get what I'm saying? And that's throughout the whole home, which is why I have to ask these questions. So here, which stain would you like? The dark chocolate or rustic? And then you just toggle back and forth. And eventually I'd even like the photo of that actual one there. But here we're just showing an example of a cabinet, right? So you're toggling between the 2 of them. And whatever one they want, we're doing a build out because we're talking throughout the whole home now. It's the same idea of what we just did as the build sheet of our recipe for our exteriors or same for our interior. And they're going to say, can I have white cabinets for the island? And let's do the dark chocolate for the mains. No, it's one throughout the whole thing, just so you know. That's going to be the rule. And you can't bend or break or even act like you're going to do it, because then you're giving them a splinter of hope. And then you have to work your way backwards from there. Ask me how I know. So it's just one throughout, and that's going to be the rule. And again, once you get into a silver or gold, you're kind of dealing with more of an isolated one. So like maybe your powder is, you know, a really special blue looking cabinet with gold hardware in there. That price point's different. Therefore, you can do those things. But here we're talking, it's going to be this throughout the whole house, right? So here you can see, based off of what they selected, whether it was a 42-inch upper or a 30, here's my cabinet, right? And here's my island. Here's my bath vanity 2. And that should be bath vanity 3. I didn't change the word there. But right here, it says all cabinets must match through the entire home. Basement bar will be covered on a later slide. Master vanity will be covered on a later slide. Head knockers will match this color and will be covered on a later slide. Laundry cabinets will be covered on a later slide because I'm not building technically all of those yet because I don't know if they want the cabinets. But if they do, I just am reassuring you that we will cover those and they will match this color. Do you follow?
Mm-hmm.
And if the mark system says that you can't add an item, it means that plan doesn't have a room. So for example, I have bath 3 down here. But if you're trying to price out a plan that doesn't have a bath 3 and you try to enter in this option code, it's going to tell you you can't. And that makes sense, right? You don't have that bathroom and you're like, oh, silly me. I'm just putting it there just in case your plan does. Got it?
Got it.
Okay. And this is the same idea. You would put it in, enter the option code below, select the color, and then select dark chocolate. Right? For all of them. So we'll hit thumbs up. And then this is the same idea. What countertops would you like throughout the home? You like level 1 or 2, and you would have to take them to the selections here and have them figure out which ones that they want. If we can get samples there, I don't mind building that out for you guys too, if we want to.
What is that?
You got samples.
Okay. Especially if you got a manufacturer one, those are the best. But if you can get a nice photo, we can do those and you can toggle which ones I want to pick. Good
You need the granite colors.
Yeah, and the correct levels. But so right here it says take them to the countertop selections and have them pick out the countertops that match with the cabinets that they just selected. You get what I'm saying? You're kind of putting together their in-person palette with the selections that they do have. And it says add all applicable items below. So here you're building out the whole home and selecting those colors for what applies there. Obviously, these 3 will always apply, but you might have the variable in the bath 3, right? Because not all of them have a third bath. And
What about, do you need to include the bar on there too, or is that going to come up if it's a basement?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Additional, if they have a basement, we'll cover that in family rooms. Yes. Flooring.
Okay.
Yep. And then on here, all countertops must match throughout the whole home. Basement bar. Oh, John, see, I almost thought ahead of you. Basement bar will be covered on the slide. And same idea. If MarkSystems says you can't add it, it's because you don't have it in that plan. So we just hit thumbs up after we do it. Do you want to add a backsplash? You want the included one, so we'll just add that. We put this in here, and it says what tile do you want, and then I hit thumbs up, and then I ask them what pattern they want. Right? You want horizontal stacked or horizontal offset? Because you have to put into different ones. So like if I hit back here. I didn't mean to blow that up all the way there. So you got to select your tile first. And I don't have another option unless I want to back out of it to not add the option. I'm forcing you to have to go here to put in a pattern. And then just as a note, the Schluter edging will always match the fixtures selected on the house and grout is predetermined with the tile. They might ask, so just so you know, right? And then
do we no longer have black grout as an option for the backsplash? Is it all white?
Yeah, it's going to match the tile.
That's the answer, right?
Yeah.
I think the black grout looks good with the gray backsplash. Just my opinion.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is black usually has a tendency to cost more anyway. But my guess, most of them are predetermined. I think they're probably just going to be white. But the answer is that if they're predetermined, they'll match the tile. So then, you've got your next one here, and I'm going to try to wrap this up because I really want to be done by noon for you guys, or I can just keep talking. So, here's your appliance layout one. So, which appliance would they like? And that's simple enough because it's one option code for all of them, but you can see the toggle for option 1 and 2, and you can click on the item and it'll blow it up so they can see it. Usually if we can, I'll do an open. All the shots that you can of the product. See what I mean, Jellybean?
Wait, what are we changing? I don't.
Just showing I'm just blowing up the photo so they can see the appliances. That's all.
What's the difference between 1 and 2?
Good question, John.
Level 2, I think, is supposed to be that the controls are on the front and it's supposed to be like a complete flat top.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
So I guess that picture needs to be updated.
That's the model number I pulled. So either it'll need to be changed in MarkSystems or something's wrong.
Yeah, that's what because I didn't know we had two levels of appliances, and that's what I was told was that
Yeah.
the level 2 is just the stove is a flat top. It's got the control panels on the front.
Okay.
Drop in.
We might have to revisit that. Maybe I can put it on the agenda because that's not the model number that was put on the
Okay.
spec sheet. So, but no problem. We can fix that. The only thing I understood the difference was that I think this one has an air fryer in the oven, and I think that the dishwasher, the inside panel of this is stainless steel and not plastic. Level one's, whoops. Yes, and level 1 is plastic right here. So that's not the dishwasher. So there will be a couple things. I wasn't sure. That's why I was gonna ask John. So if we know what those are, then I can put those in the notes and say, hey, the difference between these packages are this. So that way you can explain the cost difference. So yeah, if we can get that part ironed out, then we can
60 per square foot's not.
so same with this one, and I got to wrap this up. So you see how you have your fixture level colors. You can toggle brush nickel, black, and chrome. See how that is? The question here, the reason why we're asking this is down here on especially this first slide. What finish
Yeah,
would
this
you
could
like?
be your coats.
What would you like throughout your home? Displayed here is the level 1 chrome fixtures. This will match the included level 1 brushed nickel hardware, doors, knobs, towel bars, toilet paper holder, and light fixtures will also be matched to this. And I'm giving you a heads up here. You're going to have to end up going through and purchasing all this throughout the entire house. And so it's the same with this one. So like if we end up going to the brushed nickel, these are all your brushed nickel codes and you select those colors. And then once you hit thumbs up, based off of the question they had, I'm asking about the double vanity, and it's still based off of that level 2 brush nickel. If I had to ask chrome, it's going to ask the double vanity under chrome. And same with the fixture, the shower enclosure, your light fixture. See that I asked chrome or brush nickel. See how the fixture is that color too? Same with your pendant lights. So it's matching that family that it's there with the correct option code all the way down. You can see why it's important that you're selecting the correct buttons for the correct option codes. Make sense?
Yep.
Print day. Print day total. Steve.
You got flooring here too, by the way, LVP. So you can click on these and toggle your LVP. Carpets. I need to drop your wheat fields there. Did say not available. What? And then after I know what color they want, now I ask them, all right, in the master, do you want to stick with the carpet or the LVP? You know what I mean? And you just work your way through with each of those option codes. If it's not applicable, like bedroom 5, you just hit NA, same with the study, and you just work your way through the slideshow asking the questions. So I wanted to give you guys the whole point in having this up next to MarkSystems and punching all of your stuff in. So you know how to price out a house effectively. So if you work your way all the way to the end and ask all the question about basements and foundations, you'll end up on the home slide, or sorry, the end title slide, where it says thank you, and that's how you know you're done. That's how you made it to the end. So last thing, because it's noon, I've got a noon. If you come in here and do a missing required options, that'll run a report for anything that could be missing. That's required, not optional. Fireplaces are optional, and everything that goes to fireplaces is optional. But required options being like, hey, you didn't put on a plumbing fixture for bath 2. You know,
Will that catch like what you talked about whenever they're skipping through there if you didn't pick a color for something?
No, it won't. But
Okay.
if you go down your list on the location there, you see how it's blank because I didn't make a location pick. You would know for that one if it was missing. So
Perfect.
and then you go to the agreements, hit selected addendum. And you can see how it's broken by category. See appliances here. And then here, like cabinets, I put the mains in. You see how it says shaker gray? Everything under cabinet should be shaker gray. Everything under plumbing fixture should be brushed nickel if that's what you pick. And you have your sales right here. All right, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Nice meeting you, Jordan. Thank you.
Hey, appreciate you guys.
Yeah.
We'll see you. If we don't talk to you before then, I
Bye.
guess we'll see you next week.
All right, sounds good.
All right.